Hi, I'm Christina Dennis, and you are listening to the Recovered Life Show. Every week, we bring you a Recovered Life discussion about rewiring your brain and how understanding your brain will help you fully live your best recovered life. Remember, addiction is a life-threatening condition, and the information in this discussion is provided as a resource only and is not to be used or relied on for any diagnostic or treatment purposes. This is not a substitute when professional diagnosis or treatment is needed. Now let's jump into the discussion.
While I experienced a lot of tough moments growing up, there were also countless gifts. It sometimes feels like it has to be one or the other, but as we learned in this book, both things can be true and often are true. One of the most valuable gifts in my life was from my mom. She taught us to never look away from pain. The lesson was simple and clear. Don't look away. Don't look down. Don't pretend not to see hurt. Look people in the eye, even when their pain is overwhelming. And when you're hurting and in pain, find the people who can look you in the eye. We need to know we're not alone, especially when we're hurting. Even in my 50s, I find myself wrestling with the same questions that left me confused as a kid. Why do we cause each other so much pain? And why do we turn away from hurt when the only way to the other side of struggle is through it? I don't know why it's so hard to understand. I've been known to run from vulnerability like someone is chasing me. Granted, not very often anymore. It just takes so much more energy and creates so much more emotional churn than having a seat and asking hurt or uncertainty to pull up a chair. Doing this research and writing this book has taught me that our emotions and experiences are layers of biology, biography, behavior, and backstory. Every single day, our feelings and experiences show up in our bodies. They're shaped by where we come from and how we were raised. They drive how we show up, and each feeling has its own unique backstory. Understanding these emotions and experiences is our life's work. The more we learn, the deeper we can continue to explore. I've also learned something that has changed how I move through my life on a daily basis. Our connection with others can only be as deep as our connection with ourselves. If I don't know and understand who I am and what I need, want, and believe, I can't share myself with you. I need to be connected to myself in my own body and learning what makes me work. This is how I start to develop the grounded confidence I need to move through the world and cultivate meaningful connection with others. Before this work, I didn't give enough importance to spending time and energy connecting with myself. I made that optional if I had anything left after connecting with others. It wasn't working, and now I know why. In this life, we will know and bear witness to incredible sorrow and anguish, and we will experience breathless love and joy. There will be boring days and exciting moments, low-grade disappointment and seething anger, wonder and confusion. The wild and ever-changing nature of emotions and experiences leaves our hearts stretched, marked, and strong, worn, and willing. My hope is that we find this solid ground within us, that shore that offers safe harbor when we're feeling untethered and adrift. The more confident we are about being able to navigate to that place, the more daring our adventures and the more connected we are to ourselves and to each other. The real gift of learning language, practicing this work, and cultivating meaningful connection is being able to go anywhere without the fear of getting lost, even when we have no idea where we are or where we're going. With the right map, we can find our way back to our heart and to our truest self. Brene Brown.
And I think that's what a beautiful way to finish the work that we've done. And so, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you to everyone who wanted to come along this ride, who popped in and popped out, because, I've been recovering for some time now. And I think what I know for sure, I can, put in the palm of my hand, as far as what other people are feeling or or what new emotions that show up. And even after 25 years of coming to places like this and having these real conversations, I would say that, wow, this is something that I never want to stop doing and I never want to stop learning. But I just love the fact that it all kind of boils down to the real gift is that we belong to ourselves. And, I came up in recovery through 12 steps, and there is a motto on, any kind of 12-step coin that says, to thine own self be true. And I used to be a little confused about that. I would hear things like, this is a selfish program, but then the 12th step is about being of service. And I just want to say that it's it, it's one of the things that I think is so beautiful about the recovery program. It's one of the things that I believe, and I will always be eternally grateful for. The way I started down my road of recovery was with other people and having these meaningful connections. And I can't help but feel a little proud of the fact that I'm in recovery. And when, excuse me, Clubhouse started during the pandemic, when it really took off, and there were all these rooms of people having these amazing conversations, and really a lot of meaningful connection, I think, was happening. It was so interesting for me to see that there were a lot of people who were saying things like, I've never had this happen before, I've never seen this before. And I have to say, I'm so grateful for my recovery, because I had had those kind of conversations before, and I had had those meaningful connections. And so I'm going to take some of the knowledge that I learned and I'm going to reread to see what sticks out to me and come up with even a deeper plan. For many people, I think many people know Brene Brown is in recovery. She actually, I think, just celebrated 25 years as well. And I think it says something about what the world needs, and what is important. And I'm just so grateful that that there have been some things that have happened in our world, and even though it feels super painful and uncertain, I really get what she's saying. If I belong to myself, then I can never be lost. And I'd love to turn it over to Deanna to kind of share your thoughts and send out some invitations, because I'd really love to hear people's responses to that.
Thank you so much, Christina. And I just want to give a deep, deep, heartfelt gratitude to you for hosting this room and for doing all the work that you did to do this book club, this virtual book club for us. I know, especially not having the book in your hand, you did a lot of work and a lot more than I did. So, so everybody, just know Christina is amazing. And I've benefited so much from this book and from listening to Christina's sharing and everyone else's shares. I found that for myself personally, I got sober 3 months before COVID happened. And it was a blessing that somebody invited me to Clubhouse that year. And I don't know, thankfully, I don't have to think about it, but I don't know what my recovery would look like had I not been invited to Clubhouse and given the opportunity to share in these spaces. And then to have, I mean, just be this opportunity here where Christina said, "Hey, I'm doing this book club. Do you want to participate with me?" These things would have never happened, one, had I not gotten sober. So there's the massive gratitude for that. It makes me cry thinking about it. And 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 it makes me realize what I want in my future. And this book is just like a pivotal moment for me, especially today. My little sister just got engaged to be married a week or two ago. And there's a lot of divorce and half siblings and step siblings in my family, and things get super complicated and emotions get fumbled. And this book is giving me the opportunity to check in on myself and to see how I'm feeling and how I want to show up for the rest of the people in my life. Because what I do know is I love connection. I love being connected to my family, which is seems to be harder than any other connections I have. I love to be connected to everybody, but right now that I'm 2.5 years sober, being connected to other like-minded people that are trying to be the best versions of themselves is really important to me. And so this just having this 1 hour a week to check in and read this book and really go deep in it, I'm able, I'm learning how to cultivate better connections with other people, but honestly, by connecting with myself more. And I'm unbelievably grateful. So grateful. I'm totally going to read this book again. I'm going to use it as a guide to go back to the chapters. It's helped me in my own marriage, being able to identify how I'm feeling to my husband because I often flood him with things. And I've learned so much from this book. So I'm super grateful. And if I would love to hear if anybody else wants to come up and share anything, whether it be about the book or if you just want to come up and check in and say hi, or I don't know, maybe you had a bad morning or a great morning, um, then I would love to hear from you guys. But also, if you're just hanging out and listening, that's perfectly awesome too. So I'm just going to take a breather for a moment. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Deanna. I love that you shared all that. I mean, that is one of the cool things about recovered life discussions is that you can get experiences. And I think that from somebody who's been around a while and somebody who's newer, and I'll have to say this, prior to getting sober, prior to trying to learn about myself, like she says, these connections that we have can only be as deep as how much we know about ourselves. And being somebody who treated my codependency with alcohol and food and sex and, compulsively debting, I really had no idea who I was. And I was killing myself with alcohol to kind of fit in to the world, and I was changing who I was if there ever even was a person there. And slowly but surely, I have been on a quest, and that's where I go back to Thine Own Self Be True, and it's a selfish program to figure out who I am, why do I believe the things that I believe, are they in fact even, truthful, I continue to learn that there are so many paradoxes in our life, and living in that tension, being comfortable with multiple feelings, being comfortable sharing them, being comfortable with being messy actually brings me so much more peace. And we talked about this yesterday in the Recovered Life discussion about the paradox of grief and gratitude. Well, recovery is where I learned about gratitude. Recovery is the place that somebody said you don't feel great, or your mind is telling you just one side of the story, that things are terrible and you're not going to be okay and everybody's mean to you. I also want you to look at the things that are great. And what I think this book continues to reinforce for me is that paradox that both feelings can happen at the same time. That when I, it's not that recovery replaced all of my beliefs, because some of my fears were real, right? It's not that it just said, don't look over there. Brainwashing, I hear a lot of times people will say, oh, it's brainwashing. But I believe that that is not true. It is the expansion of information, and it's my acceptance of the fact that things are not black and white. The only thing I've ever been able to do in my recovery program 100% is not pick up a drink Everything else has been a spectrum. And the more I am comfortable with things not being absolute, and the more open I am, more I'm open to change, the more solid I feel. And I think that that's a really important thing to discuss. And so, some of you might be asking, why was this in the brain room? Right? We're talking a lot about feelings. And a lot about emotions and experiences, and the reason why I picked the book and then asked the people who come to this room more often that is this something we want to experience, was that I knew right from the beginning in reading this book that I needed more language. I needed more information so that I could share about what is actually going through my body, what I am feeling. There's an emotions wheel that has been shared over and over again in Recovered Life, but you can find it if you just want to Google emotions wheel and take some time to study it, because I didn't have words for sometimes the way I felt. And she also shared this in the last chapter, that the near enemy of actually understanding our emotions is having a limited vocabulary. And so the book started off with, let's get more language attached to this so we can get closer to our feelings and we can be known. We can know our feelings and we can share them. Good story stewardship depends not only on how we keep other people's stories and we don't try to take them over, it is also about how careful we are with our story. And that is very necessary for me to be known. I need to show up as I am. And I didn't know how to do that before. I dabble in it. And so, we went through 87 emotions. I'm not sure before this book if I would have been able to name off 87 emotions outside of looking at that emotions wheel. So the reason why we're talking about feelings in a neuro room is because we know that the more we think about these things, the more that we understand them, the more that we train our brain to add more expansion to our understanding, then we have the language to say what we're feeling. And some of the feelings were not a lot of fun: anguish, despair. But also, one lesson that came up for me in this book in particular that I think I will keep with me always is that hope is not a feeling. Hope is a cognitive process. And the three parts that I need to have in order to cultivate hope is, knowing where I want to go, having a goal, having something in sight. And then that's A. And then B is being flexible. There could be 1,000 different ways to get to where I want to go, which is great. I mean, this is me expanding. I have an idea of who I am and what I want. And then I, share that, and I'm vulnerable and willing to look at all kinds of ways to get there, the life of the grays and options. And then, of course, the C part of having hope is believing I deserve it. And in those three components alone, in that one discussion about hope, have changed me forever.
Ooh, that was really good, Christina. I'm just over here like soaking it all in, and just thinking like what everything you just said really has me hopeful. It has me processing or visualizing what certain things are going to look like for me as I cultivate meaningful connection. And for me, I have very specific things right now in my life, very specific people that I want to be closer to. I have two sisters, I have two brothers. My mother-in-law, since part of this book was learning that resentment is can also actually be jealousy or envy. So I've learned so much from this, but the hope that settles nicely in me right now because it's a struggle. And I have lots of feelings of just not the good feelings, the ones that I've identified that like I don't want to feel those that way. But y- in order to get to the good stuff and to achieve what you're hoping for, to achieve what I'm hoping for, I have to look at the yucky stuff and just accept it or recognize it, identify it, and then go from there. Because I know what I've been trying to do is I've been trying to cultivate relationships with people from a non-existent place. And there's nothing to work with there. And so like for me specifically, my heart is just with my sisters right now, and I'm trying to be this great, amazing big sister and support them and love them, and we have a very large age difference, and so it's difficult, and there are struggles, and I want to meet them where they are. And there's no animosity between us, so that's really fun. But learning learning about the language that I can share with them. And my little sister, she's 23, she actually posted to social media the other day about boundaries, and my heart leapt out of my chest. I was so excited that she is even has that on her radar, because I don't communicate these things with them. So I'm starting to, and I'm learning to. So I get really personal in here. I hope y'all don't mind.
No, I think it's beautiful.
I think it's beautiful. Thanks.
It's really beautiful to be able to have that courage and share. And, I know that in the past, and even, yesterday was a particularly personal day for me in one of the rooms. And it's, it is that's all about story stewardship. And it's all about having the grounded confidence. And so I think I'm going to look at my relationships and take the time to see the three key elements and where those meaningful connections can happen. And of course, grounded confidence is about us taking care of ourselves. It's about all of the things that we do to remain teachable and to remain with humility and stay there. It's about who we are, and a lot of recovery work, and specifically the 12 steps or any spiritual path that people pick up, that's kind of that work. And then being able to walk alongside with somebody is absolutely where I have to take my codependency to task. And or that feeling that I think a lot of addicts relate to, of wanting to control. And of course, all of that comes down to the third element about good story stewardship. And, how do I protect my story and share it with people that are able to handle it, that are capable of listening, or, have the room in their life to be able to do it. And so I'm going to forever, my relationship inventory will include these three key elements. And I have to say something really positive about my current life and, being sober 25 years later. I am so blessed to now have really, really grounded confidence and have ideas about behaviors and how to arrest my maladaptive behaviors as a codependent, where I want to, be the leader, or I want to help. We also used and talked last week about the sunny side of control is help. And of course, the third one, that understanding that my story and everybody's story is precious and valuable. And once I've gotten to a place where I have, the language to actually have a story, and I'm able to express it, who I share it with matters. And so I think it's been such an amazing conversation. I want to kind of give anybody who showed up a little bit of time if you want to come up, or if any of the information we shared and you feel like adding to the conversation. I also respect taking your time and letting this information seep into you and taking care of yourself. And Deanna, do you have anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I could really just write all this in my journal, but while I have your attention, I while listening to you speak, I'm thinking that about story stewardship and sharing my own story, and that is one of the hardest things for me to connect with people that are supposed to be close to me, like my family. Um, is that I have some scary stories uh, about how I've become the person that I am today, which I really like the person I am today. So those stories are, I mean, people don't need to know them in detail, but like that's one of the things where I'm just sitting in fear, like with my sisters, especially because they're young 20s, and I want us to be so close, and I want to share with them my own struggles, and just not that I don't want them to take the path that I have, but just that we can connect through story stewardship. And I fear, though, I fear that that I will become a scary person to them, to people that think I am just bubbly and wonderful. I have had people say to me that have known me for several years that I finally decided to share some personal things, and they just straight up did not believe me. And that that was a little harsh. And so that's something that that I'm working on. And so I'm really glad that you brought fear up. Because at least being able to identify that I'm afraid of something, that I can work on, that's a place that I can start and I can work on that. And so, yeah, I agree with you, Christina, that this book can just go on and on and on, or just the conversations around all of these topics can just be infinite. So, yeah, I'm on board to have another discussion any other time too. So, thank you, Christina.
Oh, we totally will. And so, you brought up a really good point, and I want to share this with everybody. If you are not part of Recovered Life, please hit the link. It's completely free. Once you join Recovered Life, we set you up on Volley, which is a really great kind of video app, and you can ask questions, get coaching for free, do all of that, and just continue to grow. And I would be remiss if I didn't offer that. I also want to mention that we will be talking about boundaries, and I so got what you said, Deanna, when we see somebody using recovered language, and we see enlightenment happening, it's really exciting. You're like, whoa, that person's already thinking about boundaries. And it took me till my 30s to think about what boundaries actually meant. And there's just this kind of glee and applause when we see how people are developing in their own story. But, I would love for everybody to mark their calendar tomorrow. We'll be in the Setting Healthy Boundaries room, sharing more about recovery, specifically from a codependent lens and recovering from codependency. And if anybody has any thoughts or feelings that have shown up, please feel comfortable to DM me on this app. And I think that we don't need to stick around. I am perfectly fine closing the room. It's been such a beautiful experience, and I hope that everybody, takes a moment and maybe looks or thinks about buying this book and just diving into it deeper within yourself. It's been a tremendous spiritual experience for me, and I highly recommend it. And Deanna, thank you for showing up week after week after week and being, that that partner, such a good experience with you. You have a beautiful heart, and you have so much strength and courage that you send to us every week when you show up in yourself, and you are yourself. So
I just
with
want to say
that,
thank you, Christina, before you close the room down, because I want you to have the final word. I just want to say thank you for this space and for everything that you've done. And you have given so much insight and wisdom. And so I just want to say I appreciate you so much. And thanks for asking me to do this with you. This has been a great thing for me to be a part of. So thank you.
oh, you're so welcome. Definitely, God was in the mix, or higher power. And if there's something that if there is a next subject that people will want to talk about in regards to rewiring your brain or anything, if you have an interest in a subject and you want to have me lead a discussion on that, please DM me. This is definitely a community in Recovered Life. I love having input and having people share what they'd like to discuss.
Keep the conversation going. Join Recovered Life, a community of like-minded people who are looking to live their best recovered lives. Membership is free, and you can apply at recoveredlife.us.
And with that, I'm just going to send out love to every single one of you.